Good morning, everyone. I am Matthew Smurda. I am a family law attorney. My firm name is the Law Offices of Matthew Smurda, located in Century City. And first and foremost, I want to say thank you to everyone in this group. Without this group, I don't think it would have been possible for me to have my own firm. When I joined a little bit over 3 years ago, I was working at a firm about a block that way, working for somebody. And as I got to know everyone in the group and I got to forge relationships and not only send business to everyone, I began receiving business. And that made it possible for me to go out on my own. So thank you so much. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate that. And not only do I appreciate everyone who has sent me business and referrals, but I appreciate the services that everyone provides, whether it's someone who I can send for an insurance issue to mow, or even just send flowers to thank someone for sending me business or doing something nice that Sarah always comes through with, which she just did the other week. So thank you. This group is really a great resource, and I'm happy to be a part of it. So first and foremost, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I have 3 children. We just had a son born about a month ago, so it's very exciting. And my wife Emily and I are very happy. We've been together since we were in high school, actually. We're coming up on our 10-year anniversary next month, so very happy about that. And when I'm not with my family, I'm working on my cases and helping my clients. First question I think that most people need to know is, well, what is family law exactly? People have different misconceptions about what it is. Family law covers mainly divorce. That's the most common, most prevalent issue in my practice. But it also covers things like child custody issues, when 2 parents maybe are not married and have a child together and they still need orders governing what happens with their child. It covers child support, whether married or not, spousal support or alimony for people that are married. And it also covers some other difficult issues, such as domestic violence. Good portion of my practice involves either seeking or defending against requests for restraining orders between married couples, people in a dating relationship, people cohabiting together. And another area that I handle is what we call palimony, alimony with a P. And that is based on a case called Marvin versus Marvin in California, wherein, and I'm paraphrasing here, people can be found to have formed a contract with one another based on their relationship and their cohabitation. And that contract can create bonds similar to the obligations and duties that come about when someone gets legally married. So it can lead to an obligation to provide financial support. It can lead to a finding that property is to be shared, even if it's not held in title in both people's names. And another area that I handle is prenuptial agreements. Prenups, premarital agreements, also postnuptial agreements, which are essentially prenups after you're married, and cohabitation agreements to avoid these situations that come about in a palimony case. So that's family law. It does not include things like estate planning, trusts, and wills that Jerry does, or criminal matters outside of that limited scope of domestic violence that Lewis does. And so what kind of sets me apart from other family law firms, I think, is 2 main things. Number 1 is price. I'm a smaller operation than a lot of family law firms, so I'm able to keep my hourly rate lower than a lot of firms would charge. And I'm able to avoid the total bill being large based on having 5, 6 people working on a case. I keep it much smaller. It's myself. I have contract paralegals and contract associates that I work with on an as-needed basis. So it keeps the costs down. The other thing that I think sets me apart from other firms is availability. I give all of my clients my cell phone number. And I also take calls, even though I give my cell phone number. Last night I was on the phone until about 10 o'clock with a client who was nervous and having a hard time. This morning I took a call around 6 a.m. on the way into this meeting. So I do pride myself on that. I find that it helps my clients appreciate that I care about them, and it helps them see that I care about them. And it's not just a job for me. And so I was trying to think about a good example that I could talk about, because the one thing that's great about my practice is I have a lot of good stories, as you can imagine, given the issues that I deal with. I was going to talk about a case that I'm working on with Peter Gordon. It's a fascinating case wherein the wife of our client, according to us, defrauded him out of several $1 million worth of real estate and excluded him from a business that he helped create. But at the last minute, I thought better of it because we have trial coming up in a few months and I don't want to kind of taint that. So I'll just come back and talk about it once we win at the next time I come up to speak. But one story I think that happened recently that would be worth telling would be, I got a call, it was around 6 o'clock at night, and it was from a woman I'd never met before. and she was referred to me by a colleague, and she was in a really tough spot. She was a stay-at-home mom, and she had travel plans in 2 days to go to Mexico, where her family was, for a family funeral. And the reason she was calling was she was involved in a pending divorce, and when a divorce is pending, you are actually not allowed to remove the children from the state of California, let alone the country, unless you have a court order or you have the written consent of the other parent or spouse. And what had happened in her case was her soon-to-be ex-husband had promised to her that he would sign the forms needed to travel. And they're not complex forms, it's just a simple written authorization letter. Very simple. And he said, "Oh, I'll sign it, don't worry. Oh, I'll sign it next week. Oh, I'll sign it next week. Oh, don't worry about it, I'll get it to you. You're fine." So lo and behold, about 48 hours before she needs to leave to go to this funeral, he says, "Well, I've changed my mind, and I'm not going to sign it unless you sign this deed, deeding over a property to me." So, I mean, really putting her in a tough spot. And this is a funeral. I mean, this is a once-in-a-lifetime, significant life event. She doesn't want to miss it. And she's in a real panic, and she doesn't have much time. And so I told her, I said, "Well, come on and see me tomorrow morning. I'll help you. We'll do what we can, and we'll go to court on an emergency basis." She says, "Well, I can't come and see you." "Why can't you come see me?" "Because he took my car." Okay, well, that's a problem. And also, someone needs to watch my kids. Okay, that's another problem. And I said, "All right, well, then let's do this. Let's at least work on the papers. Do you have a computer?" "No, I don't have a computer." "Why not?" "He took that too." "Okay, well, let's get out a piece of paper." So we get out a piece of paper, and I spent about an hour and a half on the phone with her, and I tell her exactly what to write. And so she's writing out what we call a declaration, which could also be called an affidavit or a sworn statement, essentially someone telling their story under penalty of perjury. And she writes it on one of those yellow notepads, what we'd call a legal pad. She writes out exactly, I talk the story out with her, she writes it out, we get it done. I tell her, "Okay, you gotta go make some copies." She says, "Well, how do I make copies?" I'm like, "Well, you gotta go to Kinko's." "Well, I have no money." "Okay, all right." So I have her take a picture of the documents, and I print it out, get it all together, and I have it ready to be delivered to her house. I have it messengered over to her house. Then I tell her exactly what to do. I tell her how to give what's called ex parte notice, which is, for those who aren't attorneys, it's the way you get into court faster than you would if you file a noticed motion that gets you a hearing date in the future. So she gives ex parte notice to the husband. Husband goes dark on her, refuses to participate. She goes into court on the ex parte hearing, and she gets the order. She gets a court order allowing her to go travel to Mexico. And she was so grateful, she was so appreciative. She actually ended up calling me on one of those FaceTime audio calls and video later from Mexico, and showed me her family, and everybody was so appreciative. And so she made it to the funeral, and she didn't have to sign the deed. So that was a good result. Those are heartwarming things. And she couldn't afford a lawyer. She couldn't afford a lawyer to represent her. And really I was kind of helping her out as a favor. But it's stories like that, and it's also things that I see when I go to court. And I see many, many people who are in the family law court system who can't afford a lawyer. And I want to help with that. I want to help on a bigger level than just what I can do, which is why my passion project that I'm working on right now is this business that was referenced when I was introduced, which I believe is going to change the landscape of family law as we know it, using technology at an affordable price. So stay tuned on that as well. Hopefully I can speak about that next time as well. Thank you.
Questions? I'm sure there's questions.
Earl.
Matt, what type of lawyer is a good power partner for you?
I think that estate planning lawyers are a pretty good power partner, just like Jerry. We kind of work hand in hand. A lot of times people come to an estate planning lawyer and actually they're in need of my services, or vice versa, they're in need of estate planning either when they come to me or after the case is done and they want to change their estate around. They want to make sure that their assets that they're getting as part of the divorce are confirmed the right way.
Question. Ready?
Eli.
I actually want to say that I had the pleasure, or not pleasure, because it's not a pleasure situation, to work with Matt about the things that I've been through. And Matt was there all the way, in and out. He was available all the time. The rates is just incredible how much you can pay, and he make it so much easier than other lawyers. Thank you so much for everything.
You got it. Thank you.
I have a girlfriend going through a really bad divorce, and her lawyer, she just wasn't doing what she needed him to. And I don't know why, but, so I called Matt, and he gave, you know, for a lawyer to make himself so available, it was awesome. Mind you, when you're in 4 or 5 traffic, you're pretty available. And he spoke to her, and you know, and it's happened 2 times already, where the person calls me right back and goes, I can't believe my lawyer's doing what he's doing because I wanted your lawyer. Like, the proof is in the pudding. He gets down to the bottom line. He's very practical. He's really smart. And he's helped my friends, and he hasn't asked for a penny. And you're just so lovely. So thank you.
Thank you.
Matt had helped me with my prenup with my wife Marietta, and you know, getting to understand life and getting to understand the relationship with another person. It comes back to personal and then business and all these different things, but he took me through it really comfortably through a story, and it was so. It might be hard in the beginning, but it was so easy at the end. And how. It's very hard to explain it, but it's like a prenup. A lot of people have 2 kind of mindsets of a prenup, but the way he did it with me, it was normal. And you know, I'm happy that I did it because it's good for both of us.
Right.
Any questions or testimonials? Let's say testimonials. Question, okay.
So apart from referring our couple friends who argue and we know should get a divorce, what are the types of things that we should be listening for that would indicate a good potential client for you?
That's a great question. So I think outside of the conventional box of divorce, I think if you hear somebody who has gotten engaged and maybe owns their own business or is set to inherit some money from their family, or maybe has been through a divorce before and is worried about getting burned again, that's a great lead for a prenuptial agreement. And also, if you have somebody who does move in with somebody and they say, well, we're living together, but we're never going to get married, you can send them my way and I'll give them an education about the risks of that. So if you hear those things, that'd be great.
Matt, start with a big hand, everybody.